There we go. What way to spend your Friday afternoon with three handsome boys? Or maybe it's the Spice Girls. I'm not sure. But welcome to the show. This is your weekend preview of the locker room, and we are live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Well, I was going to say Twitter now. It's now called X as well. Um, and we are delighted to have Reagan on as always, and we have got a new, well, I was going to say late signing to the party. We got him on the Bosman deal. It's Ethan Barrow. Ethan, how are
Yep,
you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be on again. How's yourself, Michael?
Yeah, no bad. I'm looking forward to this weekend of action, and obviously we've got the Celtic game tomorrow night, but also we've got the big Edinburgh Derby at the weekend as well. So a lot to talk about, Ethan.
Yeah, definitely. We've got the Edinburgh Derby, which should be a really good game with both teams on form. We've also got the New Firm Derby, as it's called. Both teams kind of looking for a win to get back in the race for third, with Hibs looking like the sort of team in the ascendancy at the moment. And then we've got a relegation class as well, a 6-pointer you could call it, between Dundee and St Johnstone. So yeah, a lot of good games to talk about.
Yeah, and obviously when you plan the show out in advance, Ethan, but we were going to start with the Edinburgh Hibs and Hearts game, but also in the past hour, is it so? If you can bring us up to date with the SFA has come out to apologise. That goal from Maeda sugar stand at Easter Road last week, and obviously we'll go on to talk about the Celtic game in a wee bit, but what's your reaction to that, Ethan?
Yeah, I don't think it's surprising. I think it was a sort of strange decision to give at the time, especially, fair enough, you can maybe understand it if the linesman had sort of flagged the ball for going out and then they overturned it. But because they gave the goal, it was a bit strange that they chopped it off when none of the angles were conclusive to say that the ball was out. So it was kind of a guess, as Brendan Rodgers, I think, said. So yeah, that was quite an interesting decision, I thought. But I think they've came out and said now. I think it was 4-1 on the panel agreed that the goal should have stood. So I think it's all well and good coming out now, but they should probably make a better decision at the time. But it's easier said than done. And it's lucky for Celtic, really, that it shouldn't have much of a bearing on where the league's heading this season.
I mean, what's your views on this? As Robbie comes into the equation with the, it's not biased at all, isn't it? Not with the St Mirren top one as well. So Robbie, good to see you again. And Reagan, just talking about this SFA decision about the mega goals to get schooled last week Easter Road. What do you think of that, Ethan? Because I mean, I think like I don't know about you guys, and obviously you're welcome to comment on this as well. But the SFA is just opened a can of worms. You know, like what they're going to do. I mean, it's not as if they're going to replay the game because Celtic never got a goal as well. But I've spoke to Robbie and Reagan about this before, even on the show, and like I don't know. I mean, okay, the SFA is trying to be transparent with decisions like that, but also they've opened a can of worms because obviously when Willie Corm does this VR show at the end of the month, obviously he's got to say, well, the goal should get scored. So I don't know about you, but I feel as though it's a waste of time for Willie to do that kind of like every month, but also I just wanted your opinion about that decision from the SFA. Kind of just opened a kind of like can of worms.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with that. It is sort of strange when they have this sort of monthly addition to try and address all these problems, and then they the problem is so obvious and clear that they can't even wait until the end of the month to address it. So as you said, Willie Collum's going to have to address it again at some point, where I think everyone was, or most people were in agreement that it was the wrong decision at the time.
We're going to go on to talk about the Hibs and Hearts game, but I just wanted your thoughts on that, Reagan and Robbie, about like a decision. I know Graham mentioned about Dundee United, and we'll get to Dundee United when we talk about Dundee United as well. Hopefully joined by Des Roates tonight in the show at some point. But what's your take on that, guys?
But I think for me, like, I think the biggest frustration is now, look, people make mistakes. It's a human game. It's going to happen. For me, my biggest frustration is when they're putting these, statements out saying they've got these decisions wrong. If I'm seeing improvement on the pitch and I'm seeing improvement on decisions, then I can look at it and go, right, this is at least getting better. It's getting somewhere. But this season, it's only getting worse, in my opinion. I think some of the decisions we've seen, even just during the midweek games, have shown that it's not getting better. And I think that's my biggest frustration. So I think, it's all right releasing these statements and, knowing the obvious that it's wrong. But we need to see improvement going forward.
And it's not getting any better, Reagan. Every season's just getting worse.
And obviously, I knew this would be overturned because there's no conclusive evidence, as Brendan Rodgers says, that the goal shouldn't have stood. And I think for the SFA as well, for them to overrule the linesman and the referee who are closest to the action, they're basically saying to the referee and the linesman, your job's not important because no matter what you say or do, then VR will change it.
Okay, we'll come back to this. I think we'll come back to this throughout the show as well. And also when we talk about the Celtic St Mirren game tomorrow as well. But there's a big derby in town. It's on Sunday. It's Easter Road. It's 12:30, Hibs against Hearts. And we're going to talk about the game. But yesterday, I spoke to the football correspondent of the Edinburgh Evening News, Barry Anderson, about the game. So, Barry, we're building up to the third Edinburgh Derby of the season, and I suppose, like, after this week's result, Hearts winning 3-1 at Tynecastle, and Hibs winning 3-1 away to Dundee United on Wednesday night. Both of the teams that are going into this kind of derby in a bit of form.
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. You've got a kind of strange situation because most of the time when an Edinburgh Derby comes round, one team or the other is in better form. Maybe one of them are struggling and another one isn't. So this time you've got them both on good runs. Hearts have lost only one of their last 11 games. Hibs are unbeaten in 14. So I think this game's going to be really exciting to watch. I don't know how much quality there'll be. You know yourself, there's not always a lot of quality in these derby games because they're sort of 100 miles an hour hell for leather type thing. But I just think it'll be not just for Hearts and Hibs fans. I think for the general neutral football fan, I think this will be a game that they'll just want to see. There'll be a lot of interest in this match purely because both teams are going so well, so they'll want to see who comes out on top.
Focusing on the two managers like Neil Clitsy at Hearts and obviously the cup winning David Oyles, as I say, so David Gray at Hibs as well. They both had a tough start in terms of David Gray, but also in terms of like Neil Clitsy as well. He came in with, I think it was a European game at home, and fun enough, I think it was at Mirren they beat at home as well. So he had a few home games under his belt, got off to a good start, and then fell away by the wayside by, say, November through Christmas time, and then David Gray's side never really picked up until maybe towards the back end of Christmas. So it's fun how football kind of works in terms of like, all the focus was on the managers because they were going through a wee sticky spell.
Yeah, It was. I'm pleased for David Gray because I think he's a really good coach. And I think he's obviously a young manager and he's still learning and finding his feet. But I think in time he'll become a really good manager as well. It's good to see that the Hibs board have persevered with him. I know that's a word they like doing at Easter Road, persevered. But they absolutely have, and they deserve credit for it because it would have been easy to get rid of him and just bring in somebody else, and the merry-go-round continues type thing. But they haven't, and they've stuck with them, and they're getting the rewards for that. It's good to see them up there challenging. It's good for football in the Edinburgh area to have Hearts and Hibs, two strong teams, and going well, hitting form and pushing for European places and all that stuff. So long may it continue. And Hearts have obviously, they changed managers quite early in the season when they got rid of Stephen Naismith and they brought in Neil Critchley as a replacement. And he took a couple of months just to find his feet, suss out which players he didn't want and couldn't use. And January's been a help to him as well in terms of getting some new faces in and strengthening the team. So, it's one of those situations where you couldn't pick a winner on Sunday. You genuinely couldn't go there and say, I think Hearts will go there and get a winner. I think Hibs will beat Hearts because they're both, that the confidence and momentum that the two of them have is almost equal at the minute. So I'm looking forward to it.
You mentioned about Hibs kicking by David Gray. Do you think that's a positive thing for Hibs and Scottish football? Because we've seen it like north south of the border so many times. Okay, maybe you could argue about the finances as well, but every second week a new manager comes into a club down south. But do you think it's good for Scottish football to stick by the managers? I'm talking obviously about David Gray at Hibs.
I do. I'd like to see more of it. I think managers are too easily dispensed with after a run of 6 games. You have 5 defeats and a draw in 6 games, and you can find yourself out of a job at some clubs. And it's not just in England; it happens in Scotland as well. So it's good to see that Hibs have given David Gray a bit of time. I think you look at the Hibs' recent managers since Neil Lennon left. They've had Paul Heckingbottom, Jack Ross, Sean Maloney, Lee Johnson, Nick Montgomery, and now David Gray. I mean, David Gray himself has been caretaker 3 times in between, those managers while they were looking for a replacement. So if you're going to be changing managers and have that turnover of manager all the time, you're not going to get stability. You're not going to be able to build momentum. You're just not going to be able to drive your team forward. So you have at some point you need to decide, right, this is the guy we're going to put our faith in, and we're going to give him time. We're going to back him in the transfer market, and we're going to hope that it pays off. And so far it is paying off for Hibs. So good luck to them. And I think where Hearts are concerned, they decided to make the change. In hindsight, yes, you would say it was the right thing to do at the time. I think Stephen Naismith had a good season, his full season as Hearts manager, finished 3rd. Had the team playing some decent football. Lawrence Shanklin was obviously a big part of that, scored so many goals that helped them get there. And he just had a difficult start to the season. He didn't get off to the right didn't get off on the right foot, should we say, and didn't really recover from that. He's ended up losing his job because of it. So Hearts will tell you it was the right thing to do. They're obviously in a much better position now with Neil Critchley, and I think the next few weeks are crucial for both teams because they do need those results. They'll all be going, Aberdeen, Dundee United, Hibs, Hearts. They'll all be going for that 3rd spot because that's the one with the most money and prestige attached to it now, as we've all discovered in recent years. So that's what they're aiming for. And it'll be a fascinating race, I think, through to the split, but also beyond the split. It'll be fascinating to see how they cope against one another when they're playing in the post-split fixtures.
I'm quite impressed with the Hibs team now. David Gray's got Hibs playing a good kind of like brand of football, albeit last week they went up against Celtic, and as much as people say Celtic were very poor in the day and a European hangover and all the rest, but Hibs done a kind of like professional job. But in terms of like Hearts, I've been quite fancy that El Bangu up front, even though he missed a good few chances against Rangers the other week at Tynecastle, scored a few goals at McDermott Park. last weekend. Do you think he's going to be a key player for Hearts on Sunday?
Yeah, I think it will be. This is the kind of game that he'll be relishing, and he'll have it in his mind. I think that the last big game that he played, as you mentioned there, Michael, against Rangers, he had those scoring chances and didn't take them. So the next big game he'll want, especially live on TV, he'll want to make his mark. I think that he's the sort of guy that will play on his mind a bit, not in a negative sense. It'll just be there at the back of his mind that he'll feel he has a bit of a point to prove, and he's got all the ability. He's been a really good signing for Hearts so far. Just his movement, his intelligence, positional sense, and he has a very good finisher. Although it didn't come off for him against Rangers, he's 7 goals in 8 games, I think it is now for Hearts. So obviously a guy that knows where the net is and knows how to finish chances.
Okay, that's Barry. There we go. That was Barry Anderson there from the Edinburgh Evening News, and thanks to Barry for coming on the show again. It was brilliant to hear from Barry ahead of the third Edinburgh Derby of the season on Sunday. Guys, what do you think of this game? I'm excited, Robbie, because both of the sides are going into the game in good form, especially after Wednesday night's wins away, especially Hibs away from home. Very impressive 3-1. Hearts not very kind of like impressive, Barry was saying, but still winning the game.
Aye, I mean, as Barry said, try and pick a winner out of this one. It's going to be such a good game. Hibs obviously have the home advantage, which I think will play a big part in this. We know what the crowds are like in these Edinburgh derbies, although I'm sure Hearts will take a superb away end. The home end is always important. A big win for Hibs midweek as well. You know, we spoke about VAR controversy, but there was a lot of it in that game as well. So I think both teams will definitely be up for this. You know, I think the middle of the park's so important. You look at players like Triantes on Hibs, Josh Campbell as well on Hibs, and then you always look at Neuenhoff and stuff like that at Hearts. So I think the midfield's going to be really important in this one. But look, Barry said that both teams will be going at each 100 miles an hour right for the get-go. Both teams will know if they win this game, there's a huge chance to probably get third this season. So I think for both teams, it's an absolute crucial fixture. It's one that I think is here are absolutely buzzing to see.
Ethan?
Yeah, I'd agree with what Robbie said. I think it will be hopefully one of the sort of games of the season. It's built up that way. Two teams, as Barry said previously, that are on form. Hibs, I fancy Hibs slightly, just as the home team they went unbeaten for that amount of games. They've obviously had, I think, every team in the league in that run. I think the last time they lost was at Celtic Park, and even on that day they were really unlucky. And I think Hibs, especially off the back of 2 really big wins, probably their best week of the season, with a win against Celtic and then the away win at Tannadice. Although, as mentioned, there was a bit of VAR controversy. But Hearts are coming into a really good run of form as well. But I just fancy Hibs. I know Hearts have got the goals now with Kabanga, who's nearly got a goal a game, 7 and 8. But yeah, I just fancy Hibs, and I fancy Hibs for third, actually. But I can see Hearts pushing right in there with Aberdeen and Dundee United for fourth, possibly. And I think maybe Robbie will have something to say about this as a St Mirren fan. But the top 6 could be the sort of 6 biggest clubs in Scotland. I think 5 of them kind of are undebatable. Maybe Dundee United, you could maybe throw someone else in there instead of Dundee United. But I think it's been a while since we've seen the top 6, they teams in the top 6, sorry. And I fancy all of them to get it now. I know St Mirren are just outside, and obviously had that crucial defeat against Hearts midweek. But I can't see Hearts slowing down. I see them sort of pulling away from the rest of the pack now.
Even to be fair, I agree with you. I mean, I don't expect us to get top 6, as we're going to speak about later. There's a lot of consistency issues at St Mirren right now, so I don't expect that. But I know you mentioned Kabanga there. On the other side for Hibs, I mean, what a finish for Kieran Bibby against Dundee United. Absolutely superb the way you took that. So I think both teams will probably be looking to score goals. I think I agree with you, and I think this will probably be a high-scoring game. I don't see this being 1 or 2 goals sneaking it. I think both teams will be right at each other. It'll be a really, really exciting one, but I do agree. I think the top 6, the way it looks now, it probably won't change too much. Maybe somebody else will sneak in there. I don't think it'll be us, but I think that probably is your top 6 biggest clubs.
Yeah, on your point about Kieran Bowie, I thought it was a great moment for him because I think he looked really promising at the start of the season, and then obviously got that bad injury. I think with the Scotland under-19s, I think it was. But then he's came back from injury. He's got minutes here and there, and then he gets his big goal against Dundee United in a massive game. Both teams are obviously, as I said, filled with confidence, but I just fancy Hibs at home and with that sort of run they're on.
I mean, Robbie, you were saying hopefully it's going to be an open game on Sunday, but Graham kind of makes a point on YouTube. Thanks for watching, Graham. Hope you're well. He says, what I like about Klitzy is he doesn't go anywhere and sit and behind the ball and defend. I think that's very important, especially when you play any game, but also a kind of big Edinburgh Derby. But it'll be, and especially in that atmosphere on Sunday away to Tynecastle, because it's going to be a sellout that game, and it's going to be kind of like live on the TV.
Yeah, I mean, we all know who Graham wants to win. Look, it's obvious he'll speak highly of his manager, but what I would say on the flip side is look at the way he dismantled Celtic for that first goal. Celtic is another team that play with really good attacking width, and Hearts just picked right through the middle of them. It was so easy for Josh Campbell to run right through the middle. So, on the flip side, I would say to Graham, just need to be wary of that Hibs attack because they hit you fast on the counter attack. Graham, David Gray, he's got his team set up superbly. He hit teams on the counter attack. Hibs are really good at, when they have the ball, they're good with it, and they need to defend. They can defend well as well. So this will be a really open game. But I do agree with Graham that Hearts, with the way Craig sets up, it is very attacking. But you just need to be careful with that defence.
I mean, looking at Neil Klitzy's presser today, even that he said it's got all the makings of a good game. By the way, we're building this up, and you know what happens when we build things up on this show, Robbie? It's going to be a dire 0-0 game. I'm looking forward to this one, but we're on a good run ourselves, and we want to continue that, and that's important because Hearts are kind of like away from home, in terms of like they're playing against, you would say 12 men, because obviously the Hibs fans are behind them as well, even.
Yeah, definitely. I think Hearts have got the right to be confident, and I think they'll go into the game with confidence. And as you said, us building it up, it'll probably turn out to be a scoreless draw now. But hopefully, it's a really good spectacle. And this game, I think, can sort of not make or break a season, but just going into the split, I think beating your rivals off the back of a really good run, or losing to your rivals off the back of a really good run, can sort of dictate how your next few games maybe play out. And it's maybe the same in one of the other games, Aberdeen, Dundee United as well. Both teams kind of going through a little bit of a sticky patch, although Aberdeen have found wins recently. They obviously were on the wrong end of a result at Celtic Park, so I think that'll be another massive game in the race for that third spot. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting because it's so tight throughout the league, apart from obviously first and second, which are kind of concluded at this point, you would say.
There we go. Conspiracy theories, not only in Glasgow but in Edinburgh as well, Robbie. John Beaton is the ref, but well, when I saw him on Wednesday night at the Celtic game, he couldn't run, so I don't know if he's actually fit, or maybe he just stands about and say that's a foul from miles away. But yeah, let's hope he runs about on Sunday as well. David, as I said to Barry, Robbie, it's like David Gray, the Hibs fans column, that he says looking forward to the game. The two teams are going into this in good form, but we need to focus on ourselves, and that's the thing, Robbie, because the atmosphere can get caught up with you in terms of like the big game on the telly as well. But Hibs just need to concentrate on themselves on Sunday.
I mean, like David Gray spot on, it will be a really big atmosphere. I think at this point, although he's still a young sort of manager, he's very experienced in these type of games. He went away to Tynecastle in front of the telly, in front of a big crowd, and managed to pull off a 2-1 win. So he knows how to win in these games. He'll know how to get the players up for it. I think that's the most important thing. We speak about other managers at previous clubs, maybe not knowing how to get the players up for it in the dressing room. But he's one that will definitely know how to get the players up for this. He'll put the message across before the game. Go out there, get it, Hearts. Why not? I mean, whoever wins this game, with the way, we'll speak obviously about Dundee United and Aberdeen later, but with the way they're gone, it's looking like they could get third here, whoever wins this game. So David Gray and also Crouchley on the other side will know how important this is for both teams.
Yeah, no, exactly. Ethan, and how important is it to... I usually have a wee dig at the TV companies, as Robbie knows, every week on the show, but how important is it to see a big kind of derby on the TV out with the Glasgow derby?
Yes, it's great. It's always great to have the all the derbies on the on telly. I know the last Hibs Hearts game was not a bad game, 2-1 to Hibs, obviously. And then the Dundee derbies have been quite entertaining as well. So yeah, it's good to sort of broaden out the derbies across the league rather than just Celtic Rangers. And yeah, I think it's great to have Hibs, Hearts and Dundee United in the league because it offers those more derby occasions where you get those feisty matchups. But yeah, I think this one, as Robbie said, I think it could be a real sort of decider because these teams have got the momentum for third place, whereas Dundee United and Aberdeen maybe haven't.
To be fair, Robbie, most of the Edinburgh derbies, the likes of the one last season, I think it was at Easter Road, it was 0-0, and obviously Grim's going to be biased and they say, well, it was a dull 0-0 game, but I thought it was very kind of entertaining, that game.
I mean, look, I know every 0-0 is really boring. I mean, we have seen some really entertaining games that have finished draws, but I think that, I mean, first of all, having these sort of derbies on the telly is brilliant for Scottish football. It gets awareness out there of the game. But I just can't see this one being a 0-0. You look at where, especially, last season, I'll take mainly Hibs because Hearts obviously finished third, but Hibs were struggling. Hibs have been struggling up until the last sort of a good run that they're on now. If you asked a Hibs fan would they be challenging for third coming into the season, they would have laughed at you. So I think every Hibs fan knows how much it's improved. So I don't see this being a boring game, to be honest. I think this will be entertaining, but you're right, Michael. Every time we say it's going to be a good game, it's going to finish a 0-0 and there's going to be like 2 shots in the game, so that'll be fun.
There we go. That's the rest of the game for you this weekend. Kicking off with, we're going back to front this weekend again. We should actually be goodness showing the school you because we're upside down. But anyway, the game on Sunday is Hibs and Hearts half-cool kickoff. Aberdeen Dundee United. On Saturday tomorrow night we have got Robbie against Reading Derby, St Mirren against Celtic. Barry Ferguson's first game at Ibrox. It's been a long time in football because the last week on the show, Robbie, we were talking about going into the game against you guys, and now he's off. With a big payday, he'll be laughing all the way at the bank. Rangers against Murrow, Dundee against Johnson, and Ross County against Kilmarnock. On Saturday. These are the games this weekend. So yeah, I mean, am I gonna... Okay, I will put you on the fence, guys. What do you think the score will be on Sunday between Hibs and Hearts? Will it be the Proclaimers or will it be... I don't know who supports Hearts. But anyway, so yeah, who do you think will win this game?
2-1 Hibs. 2-1 Hibs, I'm going with.
All right, I like that. I'm going to go 3-1 Hibs. I think Hibs won as well. Sorry to Graham in the chat. I know he'll be fuming with that, but
Apologies.
I just see Hibs being able to break through this Hearts team. I think in front of the home end, I mean, Ethan, you said that you can't look by the home end in these derby games are so crucial. I think that will play a massive part. So I see Hibs winning this one.
I will go for a very exciting game because I was going to go for 2-1, but obviously Ethan said it and he's bust my bubble. So I will go, sorry Graham, I will go 3-2 to Hibs. Very exciting game, but there you go. We'll probably come back on the show on Sunday, Robin, and say, why did we build that game up for? Because it was 0-0 and 2 shots and Cardiff, and the 2 shots in target was in the warm-up before the game. But there you go.
Listen, see on Sunday, we'll come back in the show and Graham will be on if the Hearts win 1-0 after an own goal or something, and he'll be laughing at us because we all predicted Hibs
to. I'll don't worry, I'll make that humble pie tonight, Robbie. Do you like humble pie? I've ate it a few times as well. So let's move on to the game of the game tomorrow night. Then at 5:30 on Sky Sports. It is St Mirren against Celtic, Robbie, and I know that on Wednesday night you put in a decent showing against Hearts, albeit you get beat, and a very brilliant performance last Saturday at Ibrox. Do you fancy your chances? Because obviously you're at home as well, and listening to Stephen Robertson to give the park isn't in very good nick. So do you think that will play into your advantage going into this game a wee bit?
I mean, to answer your first question, I'm never confident playing Celtic. They're just so good at being able to break us down. I mean, you've seen what happened earlier in the season. I think it took Callum McGregor 2 minutes to score in that game. So, that was fun. But I think I'm more excited. I mean, like you mentioned what Robinson was talking about, we've offered Mikael Mandron a new contract and 2 other players that he's not named. I think that excites me a bit more than how I'm feeling for the game. Mandron's been absolutely fantastic. But in terms of the game, I mean, we're going to need players like Mandron. The pitch is bad. I did get to see it when we played Hibs a couple of weeks ago. The pitch conditions were no great at all. Made for a very direct game. And look, I think that can maybe play into our horns. If we can, play the way we like to play. You've seen it when we play Rangers at Ibrox. We were very direct. We got on the defenders back. Unfortunately for us, we're not playing against Insiala and we're playing against 2 very capable Celtic defenders. That might be a wee bit more tricky for us, but I believe that we can do it. I mean, I said to Ian earlier, Ethan, sorry, about, consistency. That's the one thing we don't have. We can go and beat Rangers 2-0 at Ibrox and then go away to Hearts and lose. It's how we've been all season. It's the reason we're no more comfortable in the top 6. So look, honestly, I could not tell you what way this game will go. We could either show up and put in a brilliant performance, or we could get picked apart. It's just one of these games where you can't put your finger on it because how inconsistent we are. I think the one thing I would say is, you know what you're going to get with Celtic. They're going to be right up for it after that Aberdeen game. Celtic, that performance at Hibs, Celtic don't get many of them a season. It's maybe 1 or 2 bad performances a season for Celtic, even if that. So it's not going to be an easy game. It's not going to be the way Hibs managed to pick apart Celtic. Rodgers will know how to get the players up for this. I think it will take a while for Celtic to break us down, but it really could go anyway.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think Celtic in recent times have got a pretty solid record against St Mirren, but for some reason I feel like 5:30 Saturday game, I just feel like this might be a wee bit difficult for Celtic. I think you said about it's not Clinton Insiala that's playing at the back, but I think Austin Trusty's had a few problems with sort of the physical battles, especially in the Scottish Premiership. He seems to play his best football against sort of the elite strikers of the Champions League, but Simon Murray especially gave him a really, really torrid time at Dens Park, and I think Mandron and Ayunga, if they're the ones that start up front, could cause the same sort of problem. If he plays, that is because it might be Liam Scales that rotates in, because Celtic haven't really rotated their team properly since playing Bayern Munich. So yeah, I think it could be an interesting one. If St Mirren play well, as you said, they are inconsistent. If they play well and play to their strengths, which I think everyone knows St Mirren's sort of style of play, and I think they're very good at it. You've seen at Ibrox last week, they perfected it and maybe should have even won by more goals, dare I say. But yeah, I think it won't be an easy game for Celtic, but you would obviously expect them to win going to Paisley.
Robbie, as we always say on the show as well, like when you get results against Celtic and Rangers, and I suppose maybe building up to the Hibs game, Hibs to a certain extent, they got a brilliant result last week at East Road against Celtic. But it's like what you do after that game. You know, it's all like going to Ibrox and beating Rangers, but it's what you do after that game. And we saw it on Wednesday night when you went away to Hearts.
Yeah, spot on, Michael. It's trying to follow up on these games. You know, it's all well and good getting these wins against Rangers and, you know, playing in Europe, you know, going right back at the start of the season. But it's the losing to St Johnstone at home. It's the losing to Dundee United at Tannadice. It's all these games where we are playing better than Dundee United, for example. In that game at Tannadice, I thought we controlled the game brilliantly. We're just not taking our chances. That's our biggest problem this season. We didn't take our chances against Hibs, albeit Smith and goals for Hibs was absolutely superb. He's the reason Mark obviously O'Hara didn't score. So I think our biggest problem is consistency. It'll be frustrating for Robinson because if you look at the last few games, the St Johnstone one, I mean, he'll be gutted with that. Then Hibs, you know, if we just take a few chances in the 2 games, that's another 4 points on the board for what we actually got. So we could be looking at the season completely different. We could be in the race for top 3 right now, but unfortunately we're not. I do expect it, again, as Ethan said, it'll be a tough game. I don't think we've beat Celtic in the last 10 meetings against them, so that's always fun. I think they've scored 31 goals in the 10 games as well. So Celtic can score goals against us, and it's a real issue, but I never want to say I'm fully confident for these games. I feel like if I go on with confidence, it just gets let down every time. But I think we can get at Celtic with these pitch conditions. I really do.
And I think as well, Ethan, that obviously we spoke about Celtic and Bayern Munich the other week when you were on the show. But I think for St Mirren as well, especially at home, that I always speak about stages in the game. So like if St Mirren maybe like keeps it tight for like say for the first 50 minutes, 25, and then hopefully get to half time. Now they've got a bit of a chance, but yeah, I mean it is an uphill struggle for St Mirren.
Yeah, definitely. It will be, and they'll have to defend well. They'll have to frustrate Celtic. And do all the things that most teams have to do against Celtic in the league to get anything, like Hibs done last week. I thought Hibs were really good, especially in the first half. I thought Celtic were a bit better in the second half, but they obviously left themselves too much to do with that 2-0, losing 2-0 at half time. But I think St Mirren, they can definitely. I can definitely see them pulling a result here. It's not like a sort of miracle. I think they'll have to defend very well, and I think they'll have to take their chances. Some of the chances they got at Ibrox in the first half last week, I think they'll need to take this occasion because I don't think they'll get as many against Celtic as they might have got last week against Rangers. But you'd still, as I mentioned before, you still obviously back Celtic to win, but you don't know how Brendan Rodgers is going to rotate the team because obviously the big game coming up is the one against Rangers, which is coming up as one of the biggest games left in Celtic's season, obviously out of Europe.
I know that you were saying, Nathan, about Rodgers might rotate the team. It might not because Robbie Celtic's down to 1 game a week now.
I mean, Rodgers will be delighted in a way that his team's no longer in the Champions League because it gives him a chance to really solidify that, starting 11. I think it's only going to make Celtic stronger having, that full 11 to pick for every week. That's the biggest problem for us. You look at players up front like Jota, Maeda and Kun, that will potentially be the starting 3 up front. That is dangerous. The pace of Maeda single-handedly takes out our back 3. We do not have pacey enough defenders to deal with him. I think I'm intrigued as well to see who we pick at the back. Obviously, if you watch the Hearts highlights, you've seen how poor Richard Taylor was. Now, he's been getting hounded online for some of the mistakes in that game, and rightly so. He is a really solid defender, but every time he gets the ball, he's trying to run forward like a midfielder. I really don't get it. I thought it would have been well drilled at his game by now, but as you said, Celtic have a full strength team to pick for. Luckily, we do as well. I mean, I was just going to bring that point up with you from there. I'm so delighted that Killian Phillips is going to be available to play this game. He's one that will just run for you for days if he needed to be honest. So I'm delighted to have him available. I think the midfield for us as well is so important. I'm guessing Robinson will probably play the three in midfield again. So I think it's good to, obviously, for Celtic to have that full strength, but it's also good that we have got players that we can put in the team. I know, Robinson comes out every week. I said before the Hearts game, I think it was Phillips, Ali Bielsa and Boyd Munce had knocks and then they all started the game. So it's good mind tricks for Robinson. But no, I'm just happy we have got that full strength team as well to put up against them.
Yeah, I think you were saying about the back three there. Well, it's usually, you'll know better than me, but it's usually Taylor, Fraser, and Gogic are the usual sort of back three. I think they sort of summarise St Mirren. Sometimes they're really, really good, and then sometimes they're really, really bad. Sort of just the inconsistencies of the back three. It's almost as if it goes out throughout the team. Sometimes, would you say that's fair?
I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, I look at, when we had Balcom, and I don't think, I'm still no claiming, a lot of your fan base think Balcom's a bad goalkeeper. I'm not claiming that at all. I think he was good for what we had at the time. But you see a huge change when Zach Hemming gets back into the lineup. You now look at the defence, they feel a lot more confident knowing that they've got a really reliable goalkeeper behind them. So I think you're right, the defence is probably the key part of the team that is probably the most inconsistent. I will say, this season, it's actually probably been Taylor that's probably the man that you'd say has been the most inconsistent. I think Fraser, I read a stat the other day that I think Fraser has played every game he's been available for us. He's never been dropped to the bench. So he is that guy that you can just rely on. You know what you're going to get with Gogic as well. He can mark him out a game. And I'm more worried about Taylor than that left-hand side. It's really worrying me, actually, that, you could have Kuhn and Maeda running after him. And I just don't think he'd be able to handle it.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Reagan, I can't be bad. Celtic won during the week, but the Celtic fans weren't impressed with Celtic. Some Celtic fans on social media were saying, well, Celtic never played well, but I mean, most fans would take that. I bet you Robbie would bite your hand off that for saying that, oh yeah, we won 5-1, but you know what? We never played well. Reagan.
I thought Celtic played okay. I thought Aberdeen had probably the best chances in the first half, but Celtic going 3-0 up. That just the tail of the match, to be honest. But I mean, Celtic were. I thought the first goal. I don't know if you guys agree, but that just shows to me just how much Brendan Rodgers has improved Dyson Maeda. No offense to Ange Postecoglou, but I just feel Brendan Rodgers and Brendan Rodgers' staff have really took Dyson Maeda's level to a new stage.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'd agree as well, Regan. I think you summed up perfectly on Wednesday. If you watched Maeda a couple of seasons ago under the likes of Ange, he would never play up front. I just don't think he had that in him. But Rodgers has really took to him, developed him well. But Rodgers probably knew inside that Kyogo wasn't going to be there forever. So he knew that if it wasn't going to be there, you need to have somebody that's. I don't want to compare Maeda to Kyogo, but he's similar in the way that they move. I think if you watch Maeda's movement after the ball, he's absolutely superb. So I think he's been absolutely fantastic for Celtic. And just to add quickly, I mean, you look at the last two games, we've been beat 3-0 twice after Celtic, but they've scored 3 goals in the last 3 games against us. So we know if we want to get something out of this game, we need to score more goals than them, because Celtic will probably score a lot of goals.
Yeah, I think Maeda, I think at the fair assessment, I think he is very similar to Kyogo in the sense of his pressing and his movement. He's not the sort of typical striker. I think Brendan Rodgers has said that. And I don't think Kyogo was a sort of typical striker either. But I think his last 2 goals, Maeda, not his last 2 goals, sorry, the goals in his last 2 games, the one against Aberdeen, the one against Hibs, sort of perfectly sum him up. The first goal especially, he's sort of, both of them, he's alive to both goals, and when everyone else is kind of stopped. I think that kind of sums up why Maeda's probably, I would say, that the best player in Scotland at the moment. And I think it's because his work rate on top of the quality that he's added this season. Obviously, I think last season he had that sort of desire to probably be one of the best pressers in the league. But this season he's added that sort of technical quality to get the goals and the assists, which were maybe missing from his game in his previous time at Celtic.
I was actually just going to say there in terms of Graham's question, I think it is a bit harsh to say he's not good enough for Celtic. I think he does a fantastic striker. You're just not going to drop a guy that seems to be scoring every single game and playing on such high confidence. I mean, it's a shame for Rida because it probably would have been looking at Kyogo leaving going, right, this is my chance to step into the game. And I still look at the Aston Villa game in particular and how well he played, not even just getting the goals, but he's moving half the ball as well, how well he played in that game. And I thought, right, he'll probably get a run this team, but you're just never going to drop Desi Maeda.
Yeah. I think he just stepped up as well after Kyogo left. He sort of, because he was on that barren run when he never scored for ages, and then he got the 2 goals against Villa, and then he started scoring in the league as well. But Maeda's just on undroppable form at the moment, as you said. He's not got a goal a game this calendar year, so yeah.
Reagan, Brendan Rodgers said that we need to be good, and because Stephen's teams are tough, as in Stephen Robertson. And I suppose you're right, Robbie, because I remember back to, what was it, a quarter-final game that you played against Celtic, what was it, 2 or 3 seasons ago at Parkhead, and okay, Celtic won 4-0, but it took them about the last 50 minutes to score the other 3 goals.
Yeah, that's the one thing I think Robinson's system's really good at. We frustrate teams and it takes a while to score other teams to score goals. I think, although you look at the 2 last games we played against Celtic and they get the openers relatively quickly, I think the game definitely in Paisley. I know McGregor scored relatively in the first 5 minutes. At Celtic Park, I think it did take a wee bit longer. I actually think, if I remember right, Zach Hemming probably, that was his debut game back, and I think he probably should have saved one of them, but not a lot, but it's the one thing we do well. We can frustrate teams. Unfortunately for us, with the way the last few games have gone, we seem to be struggling with that right now, and I don't know what it is. I think the defence are maybe getting a wee bit too complacent. I touched on Richard Taylor. You just need to watch the Heart game to see how complacent he got on the ball. So I think Robinson will need to drill it into the players that you have no good time to take big touches and try and go and runs with the ball. You need to just stick in, get it away, and try and get it up to Mandron and Dayunga, who I think Ethan mentioned earlier will probably start in this game. I don't think he'll start Olasanya, to be honest. I think he's really good coming off of the bench.
Reagan, listening to Brendan Rodgers every week, he's actually focused on each game, because no matter what press conference you go to, a different question has been phrased came about. Oh, well, the league's won, and basically said, no, the league's not won. We've basically got to go out and win every game. So how focused is that for him to say to the players, look, nothing's been won yet. We've still got to go out and win the games. And okay, Wednesday night's game against Aberdeen, that's out the way. Now let's focus on St Mirren and then go forward from there.
Yeah, I think especially because the next match is against Rangers. So if you're
it's a cup game.
No, I know, I'm talking about the next league match. Sorry, Michael.
Right, yeah, okay. So
the next league match is against Rangers in 2 weeks' time. So if you're Brendan Rodgers, you're saying, right, if we can go into this weekend and at least have our 13 points intact, and then that means that even if Celtic do lose against Rangers, then they'll still have a 10-point lead with 8 matches to go. So I think that'll be the prima donna for Brendan Rodgers is, right, well, if we go into this match, we go in 13 points ahead, because remember, guys, Celtic went in 13 points ahead into the last Old Firm game. And then people thought that potentially this could be the title on because it was 10 points and stuff. And then Rangers got away to St Mirren, following off in Boxing Day and get beat 2-1, and then go away to Motherwell and go away to Hibs and get drop points as well. So I think it just shows you that you need to be level of maturity to go week after week after week, because it doesn't matter who you play. Everybody's watching you, Celtic, and they want you to do well. So even though people can talk about the standard, the pressure that the Celtic players are under is a lot of pressure.
Just on that point, sorry, Michael. Just on that point, quickly. I think it could be one game before Celtic win the league, and Rodgers was still about saying it's not done yet. I think that is really important to Celtic, that Rodgers can drill that into the players' head. Don't get too complacent. That people would have been probably saying after the Hibs game, other Celtic teams starting to think it's over. No, Rodgers can't have that. Rodgers needs to say to these players, we fight until it's mathematically impossible, because you can drop the heads. Rangers done it the season where they lost away at Dundee, and then I think it was Ross County as well. They lost the back-to-back games, and that lost them the league. So you can become too complacent if you're not careful. I think it is a big message that Rodgers needs to send to the players.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Sorry to cut you off there, Michael. I was just going to say, I think it's sometimes difficult for players and teams where they're so ahead in the league, because it's easy, you would imagine, for the players to sort of think, oh, well, this game doesn't really matter because we're so far ahead. But that's where Brendan Rodgers has to drill it into the players that they're still a Celtic player, and they're still expected to win every game, no matter if the league's won or lost. And that sort of form, if you're sort of getting complacent in the league, that can carry on into the cups where it does matter. And I think finishing the season strong is also very important going into the next season. So Brendan Rodgers will not want to get into the mentality yet. Yes, okay, the league has probably finished, but you want to keep the players in the mentality that they need to win every game, and that'll be the minimum standard taken. And I think that's why you have a squad of players that are going to sort of battle for places, that you bring in your sort of Luke McCowans, and he's, for example, he's desperate to impress and try and break into that sort of starting 11 for next season.
I was just going to say to you guys as well, before we go on to the big subject, I know that we spoke about at the top of the show, Ethan, but might speak about that again. But also, how important is it to see in terms of the away fans getting back in? Because as both clubs announced today that the next Glasgow Derby will be at Parkhead in about 2 weeks' time, the 16th of March, and the away fans will be getting in. It's not the full capacity, but I think they'll be working towards that next season and in the season after that. So how important is it for that, I think, to see both sets of fans at the game? Are you for that, or are you against it?
No, I'm definitely for it. I think having the full fans, what we had previously, before all the sort of nonsense took place, I think it sort of brings an extra edge to the game. Sort of means if a team's got momentum, you can hear their fans, but unless a team concedes a goal, you don't hear the away fans at all, really, especially with the 800. I know we're up to 2,000 now for Celtic Park, and it'll probably be around the same for Ibrox. But yeah, I think hopefully we can work towards that sort of old capacity that we had before. And yeah, as Graham said there in the comments, it's not the same out the fans, and it sort of makes a mockery of the match and Scottish football as a whole. I think if the sort of main spectacle match has not got away fans, it takes the whole point away from branding it as one of the biggest and best derbies in the world if you can't even have away fans in.
Robbie, I know that you watch the game in the house with your feet up, because you've got no horse in this race, as we say. But how obviously it's still a good atmosphere because one sets of fans is in the ground. But do you think it loses that kind of atmosphere with both fans not in the ground? I mean, okay, you see it at Hampden, but that's Hampden. That's like a neutral ground and all the rest of it. But how how important is it to see Celtic and a small bit of Rangers fans back? And listen, it will be the same at Ibrox as well after the split as well. But how important is it for because Sky kind of builds the games up, but when you see one set of fans and no any fans, it makes a mockery of the game. And as Graham says, a derby without fans ain't a derby, and he's right.
Oh, Graham's got it spot on. I mean, you look at the prime example of that is last season when they drew 3 each at Ibrox, and Celtic scored the 2 goals at the first 2 goals anyway in that game. Complete silence. It really was horrible to watch. It is horrible to watch now, and Graham's right. I mean, like this season, I've said in terms of enjoyment of the games I've watched, I watched all the derbies really in the league as a neutral. You look at the Edinburgh Derby in particular, that to me is a better watch because it's got away fans, it's got the passion of both sets of fans in the game. It's so much better to watch. I mean, I remember watching I was with one of my pals, he's a Celtic fan, he shoved on see some of the old fun best moments. I think it was like 2009, I think it was Izagiri away at Ibrox putting a ball to Mark Wilson at the back post, and it was at a time where Celtic fans had the full away stun, right behind the goal. I just sat and watched it and I was like, I can't believe we don't have this in the Gays game, especially in a derby that's meant to be that big. We can't have these sets of fans behind the goals because it creates moments like that where, it's really good to watch away fans celebrating these type of games.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it's difficult because I think both clubs have their eyes on the sort of season tickets they can sell and the assurances they can get to season ticket holders that they'll get to these games. But I think if you're especially if you're a neutral, and probably even especially if you're a season ticket holder that's not in one of the seats that will be taken up, I think you'd rather that they have the fans in there because it just makes it really much more entertaining. That's what football's all about. Fans giving each other stick. You can see the goal and the other fans take the mick out you, and then you score and take the mick. That's what it's all about, and that's in non-derby games. Never mind what we're calling one of the best derbies in the world. It needs to have fans, and it's a start. I know it's not the full capacity that we used to have, but it's definitely a step in the right direction.
I'm not saying get that full away, stand behind the goal back, and letting people with season tickets. I'm not saying that, but as you said, it's a start. Even if it's just a small chunk, it brings a wee bit of atmosphere. Celtic or Rangers score away from home, so I think it's a step in the right direction. I don't think we should have ever been in this situation where you're with away fans. Obviously, both clubs had their reasons at the end of the day, but it is good to get them back.
Yeah, definitely.
Good evening to Paul Donaldson, and you're just in time, Paul, because we'll be talking about Aberdeen in a wee minute or two. You're watching on YouTube. Thanks for watching the show. Now, I wanted to have Reagan's comment on this, but obviously Reagan is he had to go away because I think his makeup came off or whatever. I don't know. By the way, I'm on the kicking. What's your thoughts about Maeda School? Obviously, we touched upon it at the beginning of the show. The SFA's basically came out now and said sorry. That should have been the goal last week. And Robbie, first of all, when you saw the game, did you think it was a goal, or do you think the ball was out of play?
Again, it's going to sound like a really boring answer, but I did think it was inconclusive at the time. With the cameras that Sky have got set up, I think it was actually Premier sorry for that game. With the cameras that they had set up, no fan watching that in the telly could tell me where it was in or out. Obviously, Celtic fans are going to be going, oh, it's in. Hibs fans will be going, it's out. You just could not tell on the telly at the time. It was impossible with the angle of the cameras. So when I was watching it, I was almost surprised, to be honest, that it didn't just get gained. I thought it maybe would have. I thought they maybe would have gave it. But look, it will always be a debate with that sort of stuff, won't it? Until we get that sort of technology that allows us to see straight on where it was sort of in and out. But what I would say is, again, like this decision, like the one at Tannadice, like many other times this season, VAR really doesn't do any favours in these games. It really slows them down. It's so flat. I mean, look, we can rant on, Michael, you know this, I've ranted on numerous times on the show about VAR. I could do it so many more times, but it just ruins the game a bit. I'm really starting to hate it now. I look at the game at Tynecastle against Hearts on Wednesday. The referee stopped the game and genuinely checked for about 5 minutes a time at these VAR calls, and they still wouldn't call them out of the screen. It really does slow the game down. It makes it really frustrating to watch at this point. But no, like at the time, I thought it was. I don't know. I thought at the time, when you can't tell for the angles that are shown, you're probably thinking conclusive and no getting the goal's probably the right decision. Now they've come out and said they got that wrong, then we need to see improvements on this. This can't happen again. That's what I mean. When I said earlier in the season, earlier in the show, sorry, that I want to see improvements. If this VAR and refereeing team's not improving, then what's the point? There's absolutely no point. Just scrap VAR at that point. But I think, look, if they got it wrong, I think it was difficult to tell at the time.
Yeah.
Ethan, Robbie makes two good points there. I'll take his first point first. It was inconclusive, even Brendan Rodgers says that. But also, you've got to class the linesman, because the linesman has got a perfect view. And I do agree with Robbie as well. There should be a camera behind that goal. I mean, I'm not sure how many cameras Premier Sports take to the game, but I think it is. If it is a live game, I think it's 8 cameras that they take to the game, compared to the 5 games where you see kind of like the highlights. So yeah, I mean, you've got to take the linesman's word on that one, because he can see a very perfect view on it, and he kind of like ran back to the centre circle as if that was a goal.
Yeah, I think the linesman does have the best view in this scenario, because the overhead camera, it doesn't give you a sort of full sort of scenario, because it's a bit misleading. Because I think I'm sure you have seen before. The one that comes to mind was Japan's goal at the World Cup against, was it Germany? I think it was, at the last World Cup, where it looks like from one angle that the ball's out, and then it kind of cuts to another overhead angle, and you can see the ball's over the line. And I think it's been mentioned before, and I think somebody even mentioned it, and some of the comments have mentioned that Scottish football's got equivalent to what you could call it VAR light. I think it's been called before. It's not. We've not got the technology to be making these decisions. Sometimes we've barely even got the technology to be making offside decisions. I think the game on Wednesday, Dundee United, they couldn't even draw the lines. I think unless you're at Celtic Park and Ibrox, when they've got probably the cameras and technology for the European competitions, I don't think you've actually got the technology to make some of these decisions, even the offside ones. I think some of the time they are just guessing. The lines are like, some of the offside lines are like, how have they even, that doesn't even look sort of professional. But yeah, I think we've just got to work with what we've got. But I think they are overcomplicating it, and they're trying to make decisions which they don't have the technology to do so. Like this one, and like some fractional offsides as well. I think they should prioritise using VR to stamp out sort of errors they've made on the pitch, whether it's a penalty they've given or not given, or a red card they've given or not given, and obviously offsides that are clear and obvious. I think the decision was quite strange at the time to disallow the goal. And obviously they've kind of backtracked on that, as you would expect. It's because you want them to get the right decision, and more often than not, it seems they're not getting the right decision.
Robbie, let's speak about the inconclusive evidence. As everybody saw last week, it was a goal, but obviously, that the SFA had other things. But like, for the SFA to come out and say no, it was a goal, I think they've actually opened a can of worms now, Robbie, because they're not going to play the game again. Obviously, the Celtic fans might want to play the game again. The Celtic fans might say it's a conspiracy, but also seeing that incident, Robbie, if St Mirren was in that kind of like scenario tomorrow or whatever, and the SFA would come out with a statement about Mark O'Hara's goal should get Stug or whatever. Would you want the SFA to, as we say in Scotland, shut their mouth?
It's always a weird one, Michael. At the end of the day, like, we all just want a game where these mistakes aren't going to happen. And look, it's impossible. This is a human game. Human errors are made. We know this, but it's happening every single game week. If we were seeing genuine improvement, and maybe there was, one or two mistakes a season, that's fine. We can brush past it. It's the constant every single week. There was 3 decisions during midweek there. Obviously, in our game, the Dundee United Hibs game, and then obviously Celtic Hibs, obviously the other week. That's 3 decisions there. There's many more during the season. It's just becoming to the point where you just don't want to celebrate a goal anymore. It is when you go to games, you don't want to celebrate because of this. And just to quickly touch on Paul's point in the comments about the light version of VAR and stuff, we should not be asking clubs to pay for any version of VAR. If you ask every club in Scotland in the Premiership what they thought about VAR, they'd all tell you to chuck it. I could almost guarantee that, because it is absolutely ruining the game. We shouldn't be making our clubs pay for a better version of VAR when we can't even get this version right. We should just be totally shutting it off. I think the game would be a lot better and a lot more beneficial without VAR. It's completely slowing games down. It's, fans aren't being able to celebrate anymore. Nobody knows what's happening. Then the decisions that they have to make, it's, as Ethan said, it's more often not the wrong decision. So, look, it would annoy you if that goal happened to us and we didn't get it, and they came out and said, look, it should have stood. Of course, you'd be frustrated, but, some Celtic fans I've seen online demanding that the game's been replayed and stuff. See, if this happened to any of us, it wouldn't be talked about as much, and you just need to suck up and get on with it. So it's the same way every club, unfortunately, with the situation we're in. You just need to get on with it.
But before we move on to the Rangers game tomorrow, Ethan, you mentioned the offside rule. Like back in the day, it was offside. Put your flag up and get on with the game. But this kind of he's not offside until he touches the ball, and then 10 minutes later he scores a goal. What you got to do? Chop the goal off for kind of like offside as well. The other thing as well, Robbie Meg as well, Ethan, is, Paul Donaldson made the comment there about paying for VAR. Clubs don't have to pay for VAR. We're struggling as it is in Scotland in terms of like Ross County, Livingston in the Premiership, maybe St Johnstone as well. But I don't agree with kind of like if you're playing in the Scottish Cup against, say, Livingston against Dumbarton, they can't afford it. But like when they go to Parkhead, VAR is involved. I'm sure that, Robbie, we all hate VAR, right? But if you're going to do it properly, you would rather do it in the Scottish Cup final. You would rather do it in the semi-final and the final of the Scottish Cup. Not because that gives advantage to, say, like Celtic and Rangers and Hearts when they're at home as well. It's not really fair. Even and again, Scottish football, it's a laughing stock.
Yeah, and I think that's something, an interesting point you made there about the Scottish Cup. I think that's something they've done down in England in the FA Cup. They've
they don't have it now, yeah.
Yeah, they don't have it in the sort of earlier rounds. I think it'll probably be in for the games in the semi-finals, and the final at Wembley. But they haven't had it, and there was an awful decision that one of the referees made. I think it was in the Arsenal-Man United game where they gave Arsenal a penalty that was just never a penalty. So that's where the sort of positivity around VAR comes in, because I think if the referee gets another look at that, he overturns it. But Scotland especially, I know they've got problems in England as well, but Scotland, it seems really bad that almost every sort of match we're talking about a decision that's really, really poor.
I don't think it's half as bad in England, to be honest, even than up here.
Yeah. I think England is sort of, they moan about it, but compared to here, it's a lot better. And I think the Champions League is a lot better most of the time as well. And I think the sort of international tournaments, they seem to have little to no errors most of the time. But yeah, it's like the simple stuff that we're getting wrong in Scotland as well. And they're trying to get involved in stuff they shouldn't. I think the phrase is clear and obvious error. If it's not a clear and obvious error, leave it. They try to get involved in stuff that could go either way. If it can go either way, leave it. The decision that was made on the pitch, leave it. There was one at St Johnstone, I think it was at St Johnstone, where a few weeks ago, where the referee gave a penalty. It was either for or against St Johnstone for a handball when it hit the guy's face. And they went to VAR and ruled it out.
That was at St Mirren, and it hit Killian Phillips. Aye, Killian Phillips gave up the ball and they gave a penalty for it.
I remember it now. I remember it now. Yeah, thanks for correcting me. Yeah, but that's where it's like it works because everyone can see. He looks at it, clear and obvious error, no penalty. Where they're trying to get involved in stuff where you could go either way, and if it can go either way, I'd just leave it the way it is. Personally.
Yeah, the FA Cup points interest. I remember the big one that stands out to me is Coventry Man United, where I think Coventry scored the late goal and it nearly broke Coventry fans' heart with how long it took them to check on VAR. You know, they were stunned, they're celebrating, going, we've actually beaten this Man United team, and unfortunately they need to go to penalties and lose. But I think again on Paul's point, and it's an interesting one because what we are seeing now with this version of VAR, right, and obviously this is a so-called the light version. What we have seen in the amount of errors that have happened this season, what right would the SFA ever have gone to any of these SPFL clubs and gone, do you want to upgrade this? They would all slam the door right in your face. No one in this world would want to upgrade with what we've already seen. Yes, it might make it better, but it's not worth taking that risk for some of these teams. You know, St Johnstone can't afford to dig out the money for this big version of VAR when it might make the game worse than it already is. I don't even know if that's possible, to be honest with you, but they keep getting surprised. So I'd be surprised if any club, and even the SFA, I'd be surprised if the SFA looked at the way VAR was running when, you know what, we want to take this further. Honestly, I would just scrap it at this point. I think that would be the best option.
Yeah, they've got I was just going to say they've got to prove that they can use this technology before they start getting the more advanced ones. Of maybe if they were getting 95% of the decisions right with VAR, and you go, well, they're using VAR very well, then you sort of go, oh, maybe we will sort of do that because we are getting, they are seeming to get a lot better, but I just can't see it happening. I think we're always going to be talking about referees in this country.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest with you, everybody said, well, VR came in at first. Yeah, well, give it a season. Or in this case, give it 10 seasons or whatever. Anyway, let's go to Ibrox, and it's been football's a fun little game sometimes. Robbie, we were talking about Philip Clement last week. And now he was sacked on Monday. And now we have got club legend back Barry Ferguson taking the game against Motherwell tomorrow at Ibrox. But also it was nearly a disaster for Ferguson on Wednesday night because they were 2-0 down. They ended up winning 4-2 in the end, and a decent away performance by Rangers, Barry Ferguson side. But tomorrow the pressure will be back on because this is Rangers' last game before that Glasgow Derby in a few weeks, Robbie.
Aye, if you asked any fan, any club a couple of months ago, you would have been going, right, we're looking at this game and going, it's going to be Clement versus Kettlewell. The cards have completely flipped now. Obviously, it's Ferguson versus Vima. A really good win, first of all, for Motherwell against Dundee. They needed to get that win, get them off the mark, first home game. Travelling away to Rangers after watching that Kelly game, it'll be a really tough test for them. The one thing I would say is, if Motherwell want to get out of this game, if Nsiala starts for Rangers, you need to get at him. That is the one point that I look at in that Rangers team and go, if Motherwell can get at him, they might score a few goals because he has that liability in that Rangers team. I know me and Reagan spoke about it on Wednesday about how, poor he's been so far. But look, there's no reason why Vima won't come into this game and go, look lads, just go and show your best. Go and get at Rangers, why not? They just need to look at our game. If you execute your game plan to perfection away at Ibrox, you will get results. Look, this Rangers team's no doubt improved under Ferguson, and we gave him a lot of plaudits on Wednesday for the way the team came out in the second half and played. They play with a lot more intensity. They play with you can already see the style's a lot better. I think they move the ball a lot faster and actually try and get it forward instead of all the side-to-side stuff. So I think Rangers fans are probably more excited than they were before this kind of game about Ferguson, what he can do between now and the end of the season, because it does look improved. But, it's going to be a really tough game to predict. Look, we don't fully know what these two managers are like yet. You look at Vima and you look at Barry Ferguson. Sorry, they've had a few games each. No, obviously Motherwell, I think Vima's had one more than Ferguson at this point, but they've both had a week or two now to implement their style, what they want to do. So this is going to be an interesting game. I really, as much as a lot of the fans will be going, right, Rangers will probably win this, this could go either way in my opinion.
Regan, it's very interesting actually, because obviously Rangers weren't up to the mark. They've been getting beat off St Mirren, Queen's Park as well, and the fans it's kind of gave up. But now that Barry Ferguson's back at the helm, I think it's going to be kind of like maybe not a full house tomorrow, but
I think it will be a full house tomorrow, Mike, just because because you had the fans on Wednesday night, they were singing Barry, Barry, Barry as soon as that third goal went in. So I think they'll try and get right behind their hero. And I mean, I know Barry pretty well for being on a different radio station quite often. But I mean, in terms of what Barry's doing there, I don't think he's thinking I'm only here for 10 games. I think he genuinely thinks that he could genuinely land this job. So I think
I mean, it's his job to lose, Reagan.
Aye, because people are saying that, oh, well, he has to beat Celtic. I don't necessarily think he needs to beat Celtic. I don't know if you guys agree, but I think if he goes to Celtic Park and gets a draw and then he beats Celtic at Ibrox, I think people will be pretty satisfied, because you look at the Rangers managers over the years. I mean, who's the last Rangers manager to go to Celtic Park and win? There's not a lot of managers that have really done it. So if he goes there and gets a draw and they play well, then I would say that he's still well in a chance.
What I'd say is, sorry, just quickly on that point, I think you're spot on. I think, there's no expectation of Rangers going to Celtic Park and winning. I think I think fans are more saying it as in, if he goes to Celtic Park and gets embarrassed, then fans probably don't want him to get the job. But I think if they go there and show a good account of themselves, then there's no reason why it can't end up with the job.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think Barry Ferguson, he'll always have not always, if it goes terribly wrong, obviously he won't always, but I think with him being such an icon at Rangers, I think he's going to have the sort of a massive backing from the fans already. And when they've went to these sort of managers that like Clement and sort of other managers, Michael Beale, that they're sort of unknown and maybe they're not as loved. Well, they're definitely not as loved at Rangers. Then they have it's easier to sort of throw them under the bus. Whereas Barry Ferguson, they know he's dealt a sort of difficult task with this Rangers team that have been underperforming. You could possibly say down in tools under Philip Clement. And if he can get them a good run of games, and they do have 2 good performances against Celtic in the remaining games, and if he can pull off a tactical masterclass to outdo Jose Mourinho, which is quite crazy to say, then you never know what could happen for him. I don't think he will be in charge come next season, but you never know. As you have said, he's in the spot now, and it's his job to lose. But yeah, just to speak on them midweek, I thought it was really good from Rangers. The first half an hour was terrible from them, and Kelly could have been even more than 2 goals up, but they bounced back at the end of the first half. They were really good. Got that 1 goal back, and then they scored 3 in the second half. And going to Kilmarnock and scoring 4 goals isn't an easy feat for any team in the league. So it's really impressive that he's managed to get his team to do that. And I'm sure the Rangers fans will be looking forward to this one, expecting a win. But the thing we've seen with Rangers this season is that you'll think they're going on to a bit of run of games. They're starting to build momentum, and then they'll just drop a terrible performance out of nowhere. So I think I fancy Rangers to take this one, but I wouldn't be surprised if they rock up and play absolutely terribly, and Michael Wimmer gets his first sort of major win under his belt. I know it was a big win the other night, but going to Ibrox would be a perfect way to sort of start his tenure.
Robbie, Barry Ferguson was doing his second press conference today. He says, we're looking forward to this. We're looking forward to the first home game tomorrow, but the focus is not. The focus is on the team, not on me. Morrow will come with a game plan and have a go, but it's all about us. And Reagan was saying earlier on, Robbie, about the Rangers fans were chanting Barry Ferguson's name at the end of the game, and we know why. But Ferguson was saying to get in this press conference, it's not all about me, it's about the team.
Well, I mean, I think Barry Ferguson can think that, but the Rangers fans would say differently with this game. I think Rangers fans have a lot of expectation on Ferguson. You know, it was a good win at Killie, yes. It's a much different surface and a much different type of game. The one thing that the Rangers fans know is that some of these players aren't good enough. No matter, they could win every game between now and the end of the season, but they would still want change with these players because they know some of their times are up. What I would say is for Ferguson, Rangers fans have the expectation, as I said, that he needs to go out and put in a good performance. If this is a bad performance and Rangers don't win this game, the pressure instantly falls back on Barry this early on, because Rangers fans kind of, you know, as much as they're probably, they're definitely not going to drop into third, but they're not going to challenge Celtic either. But it's that, you know, it's that feeling that we are still in the Europa League, we're about to play Jose Mourinho's Fenerbahce. We need to be winning every game we can, build the confidence up. So I think, although Barry will say that you know, it's not all about him, it'll be different for the Rangers fans.
I think he's saying that to the media, but I think in general he knows that it's about himself, because the name Barry Ferguson at Rangers just adds a little bit of spice, and he knows that. But and he knows himself that he probably will be looking to get the job, but he's not going to come out and say it just now, because if he comes out and says it, then it would be like putting extra pressure on himself. I think, I don't know if you guys agree with it, but I said this on Wednesday. I just felt like Robbie and Ethan, I think in terms of, like, see that match on Wednesday, I felt like if that was under Fleet Clermont, the Rangers would have got beat 3 or 4. But the fact that they've managed to win the match 4-2 says a lot for me. And also, I liked what Barry Ferguson did. He took off Ngiala, because he was struggling against St Mirren, as Robbie will know. He watched that match, and then he was struggling on Wednesday night. So I think it's very good management to show that to the players. That, look, I'm not here just to take it to the end of the season. I'm going to be ruthless in what I do here.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I don't know if sort of all of the sort of tactical announcers coming from Barry Ferguson. I think Neil McCann probably has a lot of involvement in the sort of tactics at Rangers. Were you going to say something there?
I just think that's a good point you make, even because I think what Barry's done really well is he's brought in 3 good staff as well, because he's the way that I see it is, Barry's like the kind of Neil Lennon figure when Neil Lennon was in. Neil Lennon kind of left it to John Kennedy or people like that, and he done the kind of motivational speaking or the shouting and balling, as they call it back in the day, you know. But like, I think Billy Dodds, Neil McCann, Alan McGregor, I think they all be the coaching team, and then McGregor and Ferguson are just there to be the kind of face of the club, if you like. Because if you look at somebody like Steven Gerrard had like 4 great coaches, McAllister, Bayless. People, you know, I wouldn't say he's a great coach at the moment, but people were saying at the time that he was the brains behind the Gerrard operation sort of thing. Then he had a few other guys from down in England at Liverpool. So I don't think it's all about like Barry Ferguson's going to go in there and change it. I think the coaching staff that he's got behind him is really going to stand in a good stead, because if you look at something like Billy Dodds, that's a guy that got Inverness to a Scottish Cup final in Ange Postecoglou's final season as Celtic manager.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking, and you've said a lot of what I was going to say. I agree with most of what you said there. I think Billy Dodds and Neil McCann have that sort of a higher level of managerial experience than Barry Ferguson, but Barry Ferguson's someone who can G up the players. He's obviously an inspirational Rangers figure, and he can go into the press room and he can talk, and some of the words will hit the Rangers fans because he's such a legend, a legendary captain that's won and had great success at Rangers. Where you've got Neil McCann also, who was a great player at Rangers, and he can maybe has the sort of tactical edge that Barry Ferguson doesn't, and I think that was very similar with Steven Gerrard possibly, with Beale and McAllister. I think Gerrard's the sort of iconic figure. We obviously know Gerrard, an absolutely brilliant player. And he had the sort of Michael Beale and Gary McAllister behind him, which maybe gave the sort of tactical edge on the team. And I think that's something that's a dynamic that's interesting, and it's one that can work. It obviously worked for Rangers before with Gerrard in charge, and as the same with Neil Lennon as well. Neil Lennon obviously wasn't always the most sort of tactical manager, but he was a great sort of man management for putting his arm around a player and getting a player to play their best and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's an interesting coaching staff, and if they can do a good turn, then who knows, maybe they will still be in charge at the start of next season.
Robbie, from a Motherwell point of view, how do you think that they will approach this game? Albeit, I think they can take confidence, because I think that this was on the at the beginning of Clamont's reign at Ibrox when they went there, and I think they beat them, was it 2-0 at the time as well? Yeah, but the Motherwell manager was talking today, Robbie Michael, and he says it's going to be a big challenge this weekend, but it's not going to be easy. But we're going there to win the game, and that's the thing, because Rangers hasn't been performing, maybe people might say for the past couple of weeks, people might say for the whole season, I don't know, but teams don't actually fear Rangers now, especially at home and away, as you saw the other night at Kilmarnock.
And I don't think they should fear Rangers, to be honest with you. I know it's obviously different, and I think the guys were spot on with the points about obviously Ferguson, this coaching team, as a coaching team that knows how to get the players up for it. But Weimar will be well aware that if Motherwell can take their chances and defend and play well like we done at Ibrox last week, then the result will come. But the big thing is, for Motherwell, they need to take their chances. That this is a different look Rangers. Let's not beat around the bush. It's not going to be a Clement type performance where Rangers look nervy. They will know how to get up for this game. So I expect Rangers to be a lot more dominant here. But if Motherwell do get any chances, you need to take them, because you're not going to get a lot against this sort of Rangers team that we're seeing right now.
I just find that so hard to believe, Robbie, that the Rangers players were nervous, because from my point of view, I mean, I heard murmurings that Alex Ray, maybe Philippe Clement, didn't really delegate well with his coaching staff, and he kind of done it all himself. But I think people like Alex Ray were brought in to try and G up the players, and a lot of the time you had Philippe Clement coming out and going, well, we had 30 shots at goal, we were so unlucky today, the players done well. But that's not the mentality of Rangers. And it's a totally different change from what Barry Ferguson was saying on Wednesday. And I'm not saying that Barry Ferguson's going to do a better job, but I just think the way that Philippe Clement talks about it, about being nervous, about being 30 shots at goal, we played well. I think Rangers fans can see through Philippe Clement the same way they can see through Michael Beale. See when these guys talk about, Jose Mourinho, it's past his best. It's not a great football. It's not my type of football. I mean, that's not something that you say when you're due to play the guy next Thursday. Me and Michael and Andy will be on. You know, that's not something that you mention. Like, like 7 days before the match. I just think, and then he's talking about, it's a moral victory against Celtic. I mean, they were 2-0 down, then they brought it back to 3-2 and they scored a last minute goal. I mean, they were very, very fortunate. And for him to come out and say it's a moral victory, I think it's just a bit of disgrace.
I mean, Clement coming out and try to, make fun of Jose Mourinho, the Champions League winner style of play, made you laugh at the time, to be honest. But I think, I think Clement got it all wrong for the start. No Rangers team ever, and it's no disrespect to St. Dundee United or anybody in the league. No Rangers team should ever be nervous playing against anyone at Ibrox. That shouldn't be how it happened. You look at the European run, starting off under Jardine into Gio. That Rangers team could have genuinely took on anyone, and I think at Ibrox they would have gave them a good game because there was no fear in the players. The players knew that if they go at these guys, they could win this game. That's the big difference since the sort of big changes at Rangers, and they thought, come on, they've just become more and more nervous. I mean, the players were probably feeling nervous on the pitch, especially during the Queen's Park game. They knew that was the game that they had to go out and win. There was no room for slip-ups. They lost the game. I think you can see that. I think the big thing for Rangers fans is you can see the nerves on the pitch. I think every fan could see that the players were getting really nervous as the game went on. And, Clement's time had to come up. But I think you're right. I think with Ferguson in charge and you've got the likes of McGregor, I think Alan McGregor, for me, is one that we all know on the pitch is a very, charismatic person. He will know how to get the players up for these next sort of games, especially the Old Firm coming up soon. He will know how to help the players up for this. So I don't think you'll see the nerves go through as much, to be honest now. But when you've actually got coaches in there that know how to get these players up for it, I think it'll look like a much more confident Rangers team. But I also think on the flip side, in terms of this game coming up, I think Motherwell will be confident as well. Why not? They've just, Weymouth just picked up his first win against Dundee. Albeit Dundee are in a bit of turmoil right now. They'll fancy their chances going away to Ibrox.
Okay, let's move on to Robbie spoke about Dundee there. I don't know about you guys, but I know we're talking about the Edinburgh Derby and the Celtic game, St Mirren, and obviously Rangers against Motherwell. But for me, this is a game of the weekend tomorrow, Dundee against St Johnstone. And I know it's old saying in football, this is a 6-pointer, Ethan, tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just, as we mentioned before, it's momentum. St Johnstone sort of I know they had a couple of defeats and then got that win, but before that they had a good run, and they've definitely been on a better run than Dundee. Whereas if Dundee get a win at Dens against St Johnstone, they move back 6 points clear, and then Dundee have got a bit of wind behind themselves. So it's a massive game. It's a massive game. I fancy St Johnstone. I'm going with a team that's got momentum. I think Dundee are really struggling at the moment, and I think they've got some really good players, Dundee. But I think they're too reliant on moments of sort of brilliance from their key men like Simon Murray and Lyle Cameron. I don't think they offer a consistent enough style of football. I like Tony Docherty, but I think the football's too sort of gun-ho and sort of hit or miss. Whereas St Johnstone, since the turn of the year and since they got all those players in January under Simo Valakari, they seem to be a lot more of a tougher team to beat. They've given most of the teams have played a decent game. And yeah, I fancy St Johnstone to win this one. Although I wouldn't be surprised if Dundee turn up and win 3-0 or something, because they have got that in them. I feel like Dundee are a very inconsistent team who have hit a bad run at the moment, but you never know, they could go on a good run, especially if they get a win on Saturday.
I mean, we spoke about sorry, Michael. We spoke earlier in the season, when Aberdeen took the thumping to Celtic in the cup. We spoke about how that can affect your mentality. Dundee took back-to-back 6-0 losses, and 2 games. So I mean, it's another one of them mentality that sort of affects your team. Because before that, Dundee had beaten Dundee United and drew with Celtic, so it does show you how quickly your mentality can change about things. For Dundee, you'd be more inclined to say St Johnstone should be looking to win this game, but as Ethan said, anything can happen in these games. We've seen it. I mean, I genuinely did not think Ross County would have get beat. I think it was St Johnstone on Wednesday, so anything can really happen. I mean, look, if St Johnstone do win this, it's worrying times for Tony Docherty, because he knows if he cannot get relegated with this team, and with the way St Johnstone were earlier in the season, he should have looked at that and went, right, we will not be getting relegated, because let's be honest, who really gave St Johnstone a chance before Valakari came in? To give St Johnstone credit, it has been a good turnaround for Valakari, but no team should have ever been bad enough that New Dundee are in a dogfight with St Johnstone.
So, yeah, when we're talking about Dundee, guys, are you surprised at them being there, being at the bottom? Because obviously we spent most of last season saying Tony got Docherty should be nominated for manager of the year, because as you know, jumping from an assistant manager to a manager is a bit of a jump, but he's actually took it to, as an old Glasgow saying, a duck to water. But maybe the water is getting a bit deeper this season.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think Dundee on their day are one of the best teams in the league. I think they've got some players and they can really cause problems. As Robbie mentioned, they obviously beat Dundee United, and they had those draws against Celtic and Rangers, and that was with a depleted squad as well, with lots of injuries. But yeah, the players have come back, but it's never really worked out for them since then. They've been in a terrible run. And as I said, on some days they can be the worst team in the league, and they may well be the worst team in the league come Saturday at 5 o'clock.
I think the big thing that I always say about teams down the bottom, see, as much as getting the 3 points can be a habit, see, when you lose all the time, that can become a habit as well. I think that's been the case for Dundee. I watched them against Celtic a few weeks ago, Dundee, and I thought they were great against Celtic. They scored 3 goals. They were a threat all the time. But see, when you look back at that game, I don't know if you guys watched it, but I mean, Celtic would have been 3-0 up in the first 10 minutes. So if Celtic would have took their chances in that game as well, that could have been totally different. But I think in terms of Dundee, this is where we kind of expected them to be last year. But they kind of transitioned well. But then you can maybe say maybe the league was a bit poorer last year.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, no, I was just going to say that I was one that last, early in the season predicted, that I thought Dundee would have fell off a wee bit. I never thought they'd be in a relegation fight. Put it that way, I just thought other teams would get stronger and, sort of leapfrog them.
I think as well, Robbie, the fact that these, I wouldn't say small teams, because I'll get a few comments coming in moaning at me, but I mean, like the smaller budget teams, like basically because like you look at some of the players that they've lost. Simon Murray, he's obviously scoring a lot of goals for them at the moment, but they've lost their star midfielder. They've lost a few defenders as well, so that was always going to take its toll for them. As much as that is Obafemi, the striker. He played well against Celtic and Rangers. I remember he played well there, but I wouldn't really say apart from Simon Murray, they've got really somebody you can really rely on for scoring goals.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching the game early in the season at Dens Park against Hearts, where they just absolutely dismantled them for the first minute. It was such a professional performance for Dundee. Looking back at that, I don't know the last time, after that match that we've seen Dundee do that. I think it has been a season.
Sorry, Rob, I was just going to say that's Stephen Naismith's final nail in the coffin.
And I think it should have been, to be honest with the way Hearts get picked apart in that game. But I think Tony Docherty will know how tough this running's going to be. I mean, you look at some of the teams they've got. I think they're still to play Rangers, still to play Hibs as well. I think so. Dundee have got a tough running, but I just cannot believe that after watching that, first couple of games in the season, that they'd be in this position. I never thought that Dundee would be in a relegation fight. I thought, Regan, you mentioned the point of them losing a few players, but there's still, there's still good players in there that should be enough to stay up in this league. But I suppose that just shows how tight this league is, that even with these players, that they are struggling. And I think if St Johnstone win this, alarm bells will be ringing at Dens Park.
Okay, let's move on to the last game tomorrow. Ross County against Kilmarnock. Ethan, it's going to be quite interesting how Kilmarnock's going to bounce back from that result. And then on the other hand, Ross County is at the bottom of the table. But even if they weren't at the bottom of the table, Ross County can give anybody a good game of football, especially up there.
Yeah, I think this game's really interesting as well. We have 11v12 in the last game. This is obviously 9v10. I think these two teams have had really sort of similar seasons. Both have been sort of, at one moment they look like they're going to be towards the bottom of the league in that relegation playoff spot, when all the teams were on really similar points. I know it's spread out a bit now. And then last week anyway, they looked like they might jump into the top six, both of them. So it's still tight. They've still got a chance at top six. You would have to say it's an outside chance now. But I think Kelly have really sort of dropped off from last season. I don't think they're the same team. And I think that result the result midweek, showed that. They obviously go 2-0 up, and you expect them to sort of keep the lead a wee bit better than they did. But obviously Rangers were good as well, so you've got to give Rangers their credit. And for Ross County, I think they've really impressed me this season. I didn't expect them to sort of be as good as they are. I thought they would maybe go down and be close in 11 for 12. I know they're not too many points off there, but I think they've been really good, and they've had some really good sort of standout performers this season. And I really like what Don Cowy's done with Ross County this season. So I think it'll be a really interesting game. Talk about momentum, as we have done with most games. I think if Ross County win, then they're looking up and away from the sort of 11th place relegation and 12th place automatic. And if Kelly win, then they'll be looking up towards the top six again. So yeah, it's a game that I think could go either way. And yeah, I think it's a really tough one to call, this one, because both teams are quite inconsistent.
Ethan, you're spot on about Ross County. I think they're shocking everyone right now. They shocked me. My surprise package of the season, I did not expect them to be where they are right now, and I think that's full credit to the manager and the players. I was one that, I could apologise to any Ross County fan, because I did come on here and sort of say, oh, they're just a Ronan Hale team, they're built around him. But some of the other players, I think it's Kieran Phillips, his name is. I think he's been really good so far for Ross County. I was actually going to ask you guys a question. It looks like a much different Ross County team. You look at the Dundee game, and I think it was around about 22 shots Ross County hit in that game. When was the last time that competitive fixture Ross County hit 22 shots? It's probably been quite a while. I think it just shows, the progression of them and the way, the manager and the players want to go about their business. I think it's a lot better Ross County team than we're probably used to seeing. So full credit to them.
Yeah.
I think if you go back to this time last year, you had Derek Adams in there saying that Scottish football was rubbish and Ross County was a bad place and things like that. But I think because he's got a positive attitude, Robbie. He's enjoying what he's doing up there, and I think Ross County are showing they're a pretty hard team to beat, and that's all the Ross County fans want. They know that they're never going to be a sort of championship. Being able to win the title, but as long as they're showing that they're capable of, on their day, winning a match, I think Ross County fans will be pretty happy.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's move on to the game that I forgot to talk about, guys, because it's on Sunday as well, but I just remembered. It's Alzheimer's, by the way. But before you say it, Ethan, it's it all comes together all one day, mate.
Alzheimer's at the age of 21. Oh, you know.
Yeah, well, I was going to say 19 there, but I'll let you away with that, Reagan. Aberdeen against Dundee United, of course, another VR incident during the week. I don't think we've got a lot of time to talk about that one, but Aberdeen was on a winning streak of one game up until they came to Parkhead on Wednesday night evening. Aberdeen actually started the game well, and Wednesday night I thought about the first 50 minutes, and they were always in the game. As well, Aberdeen had a bit of a go and coming to Parkhead as well. But as you say, at the top of the show, it's like the new film Derby, this one. I've not heard that for years by a new film, but yeah, that's good. But Dundee United will be licking their wounds as well by their defeat on Wednesday. So it's going to be a very interesting game, this one, how the two teams will bounce back.
Yeah, definitely. I think this one could be sort of crucial in the race for those European spots. I think we've all sort of agreed that the Edinburgh clubs are carrying the most momentum at the moment, going for that third place. But Aberdeen and Dundee United have shown throughout the season, early in the season, that they have the sort of quality to go for that third spot. They've both been on poor runs. Dundee United on a poor run that you wouldn't have expected from them. Aberdeen's before their sort of recent little run, they obviously got the win against Dunfermline, where they still didn't look great in the Scottish Cup. Then they beat Kelly, and then they obviously who was it they beat after Kilmarnock? Let me see. No, it was Dundee, and then it was Kilmarnock before they went to Celtic Park. And as you said, I think they were good at Celtic Park, especially in the first half. But I think they were just a wee bit naive. They threw a bit too many bodies forward, and Celtic hit them on the counter attack, and they lost some pretty cheap goals. But that can happen at Celtic Park. Jeremy Tilleen obviously has his style of football, which he's stuck by even through difficult times. And I think they've obviously strengthened the most in the January window. They brought in a lot of sort of players that you'd expect to sort of challenge for the first team, and some of them have. So yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game for Aberdeen. It's going to be a tough game for Dundee United as well. And as you said, they'll be licking their wounds after, a lot of their fans feeling very hard done by with that disallowed Sam Dalby goal against Hibs, which was the sort of turning point in that game.
Robbie?
Pretty much what Ethan was saying. Obviously, Dundee United and Aberdeen are two of the worst form teams right now in the top six if you're going after the last sort of 5 games. So both know how crucial this could be if any of them want third place, to be honest. I think that will be, you know what you're going to get with this match in terms of Dundee United. We know what Goodwin sets up like now. He's been in the league long enough that I hope he's ready to go up there and get booed, because obviously one of his former clubs, so I think he'll enjoy that. But no, that could be a really interesting game. I look at what Aberdeen are doing, albeit the result didn't go the way at Celtic Park. That's, Tilleen will be happy with the way they played in the first half at least. Obviously 2 wins before that game. This really is probably a really tough match to predict. I mean, you look at both teams. If it wasn't for another, VAR controversy, Dundee United could have beat Hibs, which would have been a really big confidence booster. I mean, obviously they play the Dundee Derby next, so they need all the confidence they can get. So I realise that this could go either way. Aberdeen could either continue that, streak before the Celtic game, or Dundee United could scrape a win here. I mean, we're saying that it'll probably be a 0-0 draw, but this has the makings of a pretty interesting game, to be honest. This really could go either way.
And Reagan, Robbie Goose reminded me of this one. It's not only the Newfoundland Derby, I think they could call this the Jim Goodwin Derby as well, Reagan.
Aye, I think he's done a very good job. But yeah, I think that this could be the Jim Goodwin Derby. No disrespect to Dundee United, but I think it's some more than Aberdeen. I think he probably seen the pressure more at Aberdeen than he had at Dundee United, because they were down at the Championship, and then obviously he brought Dundee United back up, and then now he's doing very well. So there's probably less pressure there, but I think he's done a very good job, and he's fixed his reputation for that night when he got beat 6-0 and he's taken off the bag and all that. I thought that was a bit sad that night. You know, as much as Robbie likes
I laughed. I laughed, Reagan. I laughed.
have a wee go at him. Robbie, did Jim not do well for your club?
Yeah, Jim Gunn, to give Jim Goodwin credit, he stabilised us. I will never forgive him for the 2 semi-finals during the pandemic time, where he decided to sit back against Livingston, St Johnstone. That was a fun 2 games of football. No, but seriously, Goodwin done well for the type of players that he had at us. I still laugh at him, but whenever he loses, because I think it's funny.
Michael, I've got the team news for the Partick Thistle match, but I'll need a bit of help with the pronunciation of the goalkeeper of Partick Thistle. I think it's is it Bakarakis?
Bakarakis, yeah. But before we so that's the game on Sunday. Aberdeen against Dundee United as well. But before we move on to the Championship, I know that there's a big game tonight, so Reagan's got the team news for the game at Fairhill for Thrills on a Friday night. How many F's can I get into that sentence?
Aye.
I wonder what else. I wonder what else was coming next. Maybe Partick Thistle against Livingston, 7:45 kickoff. Reagan has got the team news.
So it's Bakarakis in goal, Reid, Martin, Graham, Chalmers, Crawford, Martin, Macbeth, O'Reilly, Ashcroft, and Masquerada. I think that's how you say his name, Masquerada. So yeah, and I'll try and find the Livingston team for you, Michael, if I can see it.
There you go. While Reagan's doing that, we'll look at the. Sorry, Reagan.
I was just going to say, Michael, it's interesting that Brian Graham is playing up top, as I just spoke about there for Partick Thistle, and he's still the manager.
Yeah, Andy's the women's team manager as well, so he's obviously he's working his socks off now, Brian Graham.
Yeah, no, just run through the rest of the game, and then we'll come back to talk about this game. Ayr against Airdrie tomorrow, Dunfermline against Morton, Hamilton against Falkirk, and Race Robbers against Queen's Park. So what do you think of this game tonight, Robbie?
It'll be an interesting game. I think I'm right in saying I think Partick Thistle have lost the last 4. I think they're winless in the last 4 anyway, so they're not in the greatest form. But like Livingston, they'll be confident. I think they'll be confident taking on any team. Like they're right up there now. They're battling Falkirk, only a point behind. They will know they can't really afford to slip up at this point. I feel like I'm sort of biased in a way where I really want Ayr in the league just so I can get Ayr versus Kilmarnock in the Premiership. I think that would be really good for the game. But look, credit to Martindale. We all said it. Majority of people said when Livingston went down the bill at Hamilton, where they just keep digressing down the leagues. That's not happened, and they're right back up there fighting now for promotion back up. So full credit to Martindale and his players, because it would have just been so easy to chuck at that point. But I think this will be an interesting game. The Championship's a weird one. Outside, I feel like Falkirk have been really good, but I mean, I think outside of that, anyone can really beat anyone in that league. Obviously, this season it's not went well for Airdrie so far. Obviously, they're playing away to tomorrow, but apart from that, anybody really can beat anybody. So this will be another interesting game. I think I fancy Livingston to get the away win here, but.
Okay, before we bring in Ethan on tonight's game, I know Reagan is working hard and now he's got the Livingston team for tonight.
So the goalkeeper is Pryor, Pittman, Yengi, Brandon, May, Nottingham, Muirhead, Tate, Montano and Wilson. So yeah, I think that's a pretty strong team for the Championship, Robbie. I mean, you look at some of the players there like Montano, Stevie May stands out as well. I mean, to get Stevie May and Montano up top, and then you've got people like Jamie Brandon that played with Hearts. You've got Ryan McGowan that played with Hearts. You know, and these are players that could easily still be playing for a Dundee or a St Johnstone, probably.
Aye, it's players that definitely could have been picked up by Premiership clubs. But I always look at Tete Yengi. That's one that it shocks me. He's not been made a stalwart player since joining Livingston. I actually really liked him for the small bit I've watched him. I think he's a really enjoyable player to watch. But you're right, Reagan. Look, that Livingston team is full with experienced players that know how to get through these, nitty-gritty games. Like, that's never going to be easy. And, you might need to sneak a 1-0. I think that's what Livingston are really good at. They're good at going away to these sort of grounds where it's not going to be easy. Partick Thistle will make it hard for them, but if you're a Livingston fan, you'll be confident that they can go and get the win. So I think full credit to Livingston because Martindale's done amazing to, be right back up challenging to try and come back up.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree with both of your points about Livingston's strength. I think they have got a really good squad for the Championship. And that's maybe why they've sort of revived their season and they're right up there with the other two, Ayr United and Falkirk. Tete Yengi was a sort of surprise because he had a really good end to last season. I remember him scoring a double at Celtic Park in the Scottish Cup. But yeah, I think the sort of league shows it, and I think the sort of squads and the management shows it. I think Falkirk, Livingston and Ayr United have got the best squads and managers in the league, and I think that's why they're up there challenging. And yeah, I don't know. It's hard to call because they're all so close. But I don't know. I think Livingston, I fancy them. They've got form on their side. I know they missed the opportunity to go top when Falkirk and Ayr United drew the other week. Again, when they drew against Dunfermline, but I fancy them to beat Partick Thistle tonight. I think Partick Thistle's aim will just be to sneak into that playoff and hopefully for them that they can maybe beat whoever the other two teams are that are in the playoff from the Championship.
And I think if you look at the game, guys, I know I always ask you in this part of the show what's your game of the weekend, but I think the game tonight, Reagan.
I would say the game tonight, but I would also say I like the look of that Raith Rovers and Queen's Park game. Because Queen's Park, they've still not won a game for the beat Rangers. It's quite funny actually, But I think Raith Rovers for me, Michael. I think they might be one that you look at maybe possibly for the playoffs. But also you look at Falkirk going away to Hamilton. I think Falkirk will pick up the 3 points. So it's very, very, very important that Scott Brown gets the 3 points tomorrow because I fully expect Falkirk to win.
Yep. So that is the games tomorrow and the Championship and the Premiership games this weekend. Don't forget, we'll be back on Sunday for the review show of the weekend action. And while we're on air, we can keep you up to date on the Newfoundland Derby, Aberdeen against Gun United, and also Hibs against Hearts will have reaction to that game as well. And then we'll be back on Thursday night, big night for Rangers, Fenerbahce, early kickoff for that one, 5:45. So we'll be on at 4:45 for the build-up of that one, and then we'll be on after the game at 8 o'clock. Thanks to everybody watching tonight. Thanks to Reagan. Thanks to Ethan. And thanks to obviously myself as well. And thanks to Barry Anderson for popping back in early on to talk about the game on Sunday. And we'll be back on Sunday at 2:30. Whatever you're doing, enjoy your weekend of football.
The Locker Room, with all the sports news you need. Live